Hi Anja, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yeah, really well. Yeah, enjoying the start
We're
to
always well.
we are. Yeah, I know. We never really say anything that useful there. So how has your start to 2023 been?
It's actually been slow. Um, I haven't started anything new. I haven't even finished my resolutions. So I'm still in the process. I'm waiting maybe another week and then I'm gonna get going. How
Yeah.
about you, Tansy?
Yeah, I have had a really good start. I think in terms of just my motivation to see a new year starting, and I think that might be because I was quite happy to see 2022 behind us. Um, just it was a year of a lot of exposing, a lot of opening, like seeing behind the curtain, seeing behind all of the things that were going on, like in FTX and Celsius, with the Capitol Hill riots, with even COVID. And then more recently with the Twitter files. So it's just been a really interesting year of kind of exposing, but actually that's made it was quite an exhausting year. It was quite bumpy and learned a lot, but I'm quite glad that we're out of 2022, honestly. So I felt I hit the ground running in 2023. I was like, woo, we're in a new year. Possibly I didn't make that many resolutions. I think really just well-being was at the top there, and just wanting to have a kind of clear sort of projection, I guess, was more my idea for the beginning of the year. And I have that. I kind of wrote it down what I wanted to do this year. So we will see if that pans out. But I kind of feel excited at the beginnings of adventures, and this feels like a new adventure.
Yeah, I think in 2023, I was so busy listening and watching to everything that was happening. I feel like one of the things I want to try to focus on is sort of my inner knowledge, my inner wiseness, what am I saying? What can I learn from going and listening to me
Mm.
and to my desires and insights? Because I think I've gathered quite a bit of knowledge about what's going on out there. And now I feel like in order for me, I think to make a more powerful and useful input into the world, it's got to be I got to listen to myself more. So I think that's my strategy for 2023.
I think that's really important. And it's something that I'm also really doing. It's that I think news and what's been going on, it can be really sensationalist and it can really capture you. But every time you're looking, it's this sort of exhausting pattern of new stories just triggering your emotional sort of stability and well-being. And actually it's very distracting. It really takes away from what you're trying to do for yourself, because it has an impact on your emotional well-being, your physical responding, and it can kind of either make you feel more lethargic, or motivated in the wrong ways. So, I mean, sometimes in the right ways, but it depends what you're ultimately wanting to do. And I think it's really important at the beginning of the year, particularly to really listen to your needs and say, what is it I want to accomplish or do, or um, yeah, what is it that I want to feed myself with this year? Like, what is it that I see myself going, like where is it that I see myself going, or what is it that I want to learn or do? Because unless we have that in advance, we can find ourselves really deviating from it. So having a kind of more clear idea of actually a bit more what we want to do, not so specific so it's too tight, but definitely a little bit of an idea, and then kind of turning off some of that social media or the news when it's distracting, or just only touching into it occasionally. Like definitely over the past couple of weeks, I really haven't been looking at Twitter that much or anything like that. And I've got so much done, because I haven't been looking at social media, and it's really powerful. And I can tap in every so often, get gather the kind of news headlines, but really it's not adding to my experience right now. And I think what does is, like you say, is like actually listening to what you need for yourself. And what will actually help you in the long term in terms of well-being is actually doing those things that help you, or doing those, having that voice, writing that book, putting out those articles, like whatever it is that you have thought, I really want to do this. If you diverted all of the energy that you spent on social media to doing those things, it would actually improve your well-being much more and your sense of satisfaction than spending all that time on social media and learning all of this these sensationalist articles. So I think that's a really good way to start the new year.
Yeah. Thank you for reflecting that back. I mean, 2022 was just so filled. I just felt the need to see what is happening globally. And this year I have the need to, what is happening internally? What are my ideas and thoughts and feelings and such? So, yeah. Okay. Should be a good year then.
Yeah. But today we are talking about the Lightning Network, which is something that you may hear quite a lot about if you're in the Bitcoin space, is this Lightning Network, Bitcoin Lightning Network. But a lot of people struggle to really understand what it is, what it's really useful for, and how to use it. So Anja and I thought we would hop on today to, give a little bit of a discussion and insight into the Bitcoin Lightning Network. So maybe I will just start with the usefulness of it as a new technology, or why it's been sort of created. So essentially, we have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is wonderful. We can rave about Bitcoin a lot. But in terms of creating a global monetary system that is useful in terms of daily transactions or small transactions, at the moment, it's not that useful in that capacity because of the fees associated with each of those transactions. Because in order to create Bitcoin, in order to create new blocks and have each of those transactions added to the blockchain, you need somebody to validate that transaction, and they charge a fee. And so it's possible that in the future, those fees may even go up. So we've got to just be aware of the fact that there are fees every time you send Bitcoin to somebody else. So it is a global network, currency network, and you can send Bitcoin to anybody else who has a Bitcoin wallet. But every time you send it, you are paying a fee in order to get your transaction sent. The other part is it's quite slow. So it can only process quite a small number of transactions. I think it's 7 per second, which is very small in comparison to the kind of the big payment networks that we have at the moment. And that is because it's kind of it's limited by how many transactions can be added to the block each 10 minutes. So a block of transactions is added to a blockchain. It's added to the blockchain every 10 minutes. And there's only a certain amount of space on each of those blocks. And they have to be added one every 10 minutes. So you can imagine that the capacity is quite small. It's kind of this funnel to get your transactions on there. So it's possibly better to think of Bitcoin as being the sort of the Bitcoin standard, like being maybe a standard of our financial future, or being useful for big transactions or for retaining value. But in terms of sending small payments, such as, a $5 coffee or a tip, or even a micro payment. So if you were listening to a song and you wanted to send a penny or a cent, you wouldn't do that with Bitcoin because the fee could be, more than the tip that you would leave. So it doesn't make sense to send a cent along the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, people already have a challenge giving tips. It's like a re-education for tipping, especially on whether it's YouTube or Twitter. But then if you have to spend 10 times the amount just for the process, that's going to really inhibit that tipping. So
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. And actually, you guys in America are so good with your tips in general. So if you
Oh
guys
yeah, we are better than you guys.
terrible. We're terrible. Like we tip when we have to, which I think is really limited to a nice restaurant. But yeah, I've noticed just in tipping in America that they always just feel that they need to kind of tip for every drink or something like that when you're in a bar, which to the English mind is just extraordinary. So yeah, we want to encourage. I loved that. I love the tipping culture. It's just this. It makes tipping easy, and it means that money passes much more fluidly. And Americans aren't worried so much, it seems, about that extra dollar. It's just like, here you go, here's a dollar, because you're so used to spending them. You're so used to tipping. Whereas in England, to get a pound off somebody is like a really big deal for them to just open their wallet to add a pound to anything. So it's like America kind of really does create a really nice giving culture. I hope that crosses over. And with the Bitcoin Lightning Network, it would make it a lot easier to do so. Yeah. So the Bitcoin Lightning Network essentially acts as a layer that helps to alleviate the pressures that we see on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it can actually allow you to send micropayments. So every payment that is sent on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, you're sending Bitcoin, but you can send fractions of a Bitcoin. So Satoshis, essentially, each Bitcoin is made up of 100 million Satoshis. So you could send 5 Satoshis or 15 Satoshis, which is like a fraction of a cent. And the fees you pay are really nominal, like tiny, and are a percentage of the amount that you're sending. So you're hardly paying anything to send along the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And it can process a huge amount of transactions. So there is no sort of limitation in terms of the transactions that are being sent across the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which really opens it up as a payment system, unlike Bitcoin. So you can think of Bitcoin as being very secure, very strong, but a kind of little bit more clunky and slow, whereas the Bitcoin Lightning Network is this kind of speedy kind of motorway or freeway that sort of sits on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. It's another layer. But there are some difficulties in accessing it and for people to really understand how it works. So I know that we're going to go there, but did you have anything to add?
I mean, what I have to contribute is some examples of that happening, of Lightning Network being used. But should we wait on that, or should I share that now? Or should you continue?
I think some examples actually would be really nice, because then it gives people space, gives all you listeners some space from just being taught. But just to say that, yeah, the Bitcoin Lightning Network is in use now. So it was a sort of an idea and then a new technology, and it really is being more widely adopted. And so you can use the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and you just need a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet. But I will explain the details in a moment, but I'd love to hear your examples of how the Bitcoin Lightning Network is being adopted.
Yeah, I'll start with sort of the kind of a bigger picture potential that's sort of in the process. Is MicroStrategy is doing a lot of development with Lightning Network. They really see the value of it because of these micropayments. And also because of the speed and the way it's laid out. I mean, a couple of the things that they're looking into is, one is a way for marketing companies to encourage people to get information from people, basically, instead of stealing it, or sneaking it from, let's say, places like Facebook, or, so that whole dynamic changes, where instead, if a company wants to have your information, wants you to fill out a survey, wants you to give a review of their product, they can then easily pay you in these micropayments, in these Bitcoin micropayments. And so it encourages people and makes people want to do it more, to share their value and their time and energy when they give their information to a company. So it's sort of this marketing so they're developing something to integrate with these marketing companies so that it's easy for them to offer this kind of dynamic between their customers. And then another thing they're doing, which is more, it's a security wall, basically a Lightning Network security wall. So how that works is really interesting. So if it's like certain pages of an organization, they can be hacked. We've heard of a lot of hacking in 2022 of websites. And to minimize this, one thing you can do is make people pay up front, kind of to enter the door. You pay, whatever Satoshis to be allowed access. And then you can go in, and I think maybe there's some kind of monitoring. I'm not quite sure the details. But then this way they can identify you and keep your money. But then when you leave, it comes right back to you. This money, they send it right back via Lightning Network. So it's sort of a deposit to enter. And then when you leave, you get that deposit back. And that's something, like let's say Visa, credit cards, they're not set up for that because it takes much longer for them to sort of process this whole thing. And it would take hours or days for you to get that money back that you're depositing. So it wouldn't be a valid process somehow. So so it's the security system. You drop off some money, say, hey, when people are I think especially bots, when they're going into some of these websites, they're just trying to get easy access. So it's cheap on them to create some kind of havoc or benefit. So once you start adding this kind of deposit, you minimize some of that access as well. So it's an interesting sort of security software that they're developing. So that's sort of in the process still, but places that are using it are, one of the places I didn't know about, or regions, is sort of these remittance payments between Europe and England, and Africa, the continent of Africa. Because there's a lot of, kind of like here in the US, I think we've had this maybe longer, or I'm just more aware of it, is that a lot of people coming to the United States from Central America to look for opportunity, they're always sending money back to their family, always. It's consistent. And they're typically doing this via Western Union. And it's also a very slow process, could take days, week. It's very costly. They take a huge percentage off of the money that you're sending, for them to keep for doing this for you. So the Lightning Network allows you then to do this much easier, much faster, much cheaper. And there's not all this regulation issues, because then when we come to the EU African remittance situation, a lot of countries in Africa, they don't allow their banks to integrate with these third party like Western Union to move that money. And the ones that do, again, it's a very slow process. It's a lot of money. It's very confusing to then, because it's a relatively new process, transferring the EUs into whatever currency, let's say Ghana or Nigeria use. And the beauty with Lightning Network is that that's being actually sent. It gets transferred into Bitcoin, gets sent real fast to, let's say, Ghana from Germany. And there's such a minimal fee, and these people get it immediately in their wallet, and they don't even have to then deal with the banks. So it just allows for so much freedom and ease and less taking of your money by these third parties. So I'm really pro Lightning Network, as you can tell. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the remittances happening on the Lightning Network. So that's not happening on the Bitcoin blockchain. That's happening on the Lightning Network, is it? Yeah. Okay. That's interesting.
I mean, it might be happening on the Bitcoin network, blockchain as well, but definitely the Lightning Network is taking off in Africa.
Yeah.
And I think mainly it was Nigeria, Ghana. I've forgotten the other two countries that are really advocating for it, and where there's a huge increase in people using Lightning Network.
I guess it's because there's a couple of things there. Is like, one is because if they're sending less money, so if you were sending $1,000 across, across to Ghana, you would probably want to do that on the Bitcoin network, but you'd be paying, maybe $1.50 or $2 in fees to send that. But the Bitcoin network is technically a little bit more secure. But if you were only sending, say, $50 or $20 or $10, you just want to send it,
which is a lot when you flip it into the Nigerian currency or the Ghana currency. It's a lot for them.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so then spending, $1 or $2 to send that's a huge amount out of that $10 or $20. So sending on the Bitcoin Lightning Network would make more sense for if it's a bit of a smaller amount. And it means that you can kind of spend it easily, quickly across Africa. So whoever's on that network can all kind of utilize that too. And obviously that's the same with Bitcoin. But obviously, if you're sending it and you're paying for things, again, we're going to have to be paying a fee every time. Whereas on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, it's like super, super cheap. So yeah, I think the Bitcoin Lightning Network is really encouraging the use of Bitcoin as a payments network, especially in countries that need it. And I think that in the West or in the North, the global North, we can kind of look at this technology and be like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, I can see how it's useful. But in the global South, it's genuinely a lifeline. It's really pivotal and important because they don't have this access in any other way, this immediacy of money transfer. And a lot of those countries are blocked out of, the bigger networks, or even say buying something in Europe, like they may be blocked from that because of the relationship that the banks in Europe maybe have with the banks in Ghana or wherever. So it really helps to create more openness of exchange across borders. So it's really exciting in that sense. Yeah. Did you have any more examples to share?
Yeah, so El Salvador is using it, and also Lugana, Switzerland. They're really pushing it as well because they're trying to get it's not their currency, but they're really trying to encourage stores, restaurants and coffee shops and hotels to use Bitcoin, and to make that happen more fluidly and is Lightning Network. So those are some of the places that are also using it.
Yeah.
And that's all the examples I have for you.
I love them. I would give one more is that
what?
There's an app called Fountain, and it's a podcast app. So it's kind of like Spotify, but just for podcasts. And you can tip the podcast hosts. So if you set up your Bitcoin Lightning Network, you can send Satoshis to hosts and whoever you want to send it to. So that's
what is the organist or the
Fountain?
Fountain. Okay.
Yeah. The logo's black with some gold kind of feathers or kind of quotation marks, I guess. So that's really good. And I think it's a bit difficult because obviously you have to move from Spotify or whatever platform you use now and then just go there for podcasts. But it's really nice to see that it's being adopted and the potential. And hopefully in the future, whenever you listen to music, you may be just sending 1 Satoshi or 2 Satoshis to people for listening to their music. And so they are actually getting the benefit of you listening to their music specifically, which can really help artists. So this is a way to kind of keep that money flowing to them, to keep them creating great art. Yeah. So maybe then we should talk about how it works and why there are some mostly it's like it's people approaching it. There's a bit of difficulty in understanding how it works, which I when I was researching it, I didn't find that many useful articles or videos about it. Like it would always be talking about nodes, and I will kind of explain that in a moment. But if you are just a normal user who doesn't need to have a node, there isn't really information for you. So I'm going to give you that information. So
thank you.
So how it works essentially is that the Bitcoin Lightning Network is a kind of totally separate system to the Bitcoin blockchain network. They are two different systems. So that's something that you need to be really clear about, that the Bitcoin Lightning Network is the Lightning Network and Bitcoin blockchain is Bitcoin. So in the sense of, if you want to send a Bitcoin payment to somebody, you need to know whether they are receiving it via the Lightning Network or receiving it via the Bitcoin blockchain. Like, which wallet are they using? Because you need to send it on via the same kind of wallet network. So if I had a Bitcoin wallet, you are receiving Bitcoin, I need to send you Bitcoin to your Bitcoin wallet. If you have a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, I also need to have a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet and send you Bitcoin Lightning payments between those two wallets. You can't, unless you're in an integrated wallet and you're doing it yourself, you don't want to be sending Bitcoin to the Lightning Network directly to somebody else's wallet, if that kind of makes sense. That might make sense after I've explained how it works. But essentially, how it works is, if I kind of speak through if I was going to do it. So essentially, I set up a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet. I send Bitcoin from my Bitcoin wallet to my Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet. And my Lightning Network wallet is part of a network, is like linked to a network, like a web of other Lightning Network wallets. And with each kind of node on this Bitcoin Lightning Network that is like supporting this framework, each of those has a wallet. And so what happens is that as soon as you send that Bitcoin off the Bitcoin blockchain into your Bitcoin Lightning Network, the amount that you sent off is kind of registered on the Bitcoin blockchain. So if I sent $50 to my Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, that's featured on the transaction list of Bitcoin, of the Bitcoin blockchain. But once it's in my Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, it doesn't update the Bitcoin blockchain. It as far as the Bitcoin blockchain is concerned, I have $50 in my Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet. Now, what happens is, to send Bitcoin over the Lightning Network, I find out somebody else's wallet, Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, and we open a channel to each other. So essentially, the Lightning Network is a huge network of channels between two wallets or two nodes. So it's like all of these different wallets all over the world that are just setting up channels with each other. And so what that does is I can then send a payment across that channel, some Bitcoin, to the other person. That never updates the Bitcoin blockchain, which is really kind of key to know. And we can send Bitcoin between ourselves on the Bitcoin Lightning Network as many times as we want, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And only when we decide to close the channel is the blockchain updated. The main Bitcoin blockchain is updated at that point. So essentially, if I have sent $50 to my Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, and I send $30 to, say, you on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, you send $30 back. I then say $30 again to you. Each time we send it, the Bitcoin blockchain is not updated. It doesn't know. It carries on just moving as it does. We can just interact as much as we want for as long as we want. But as soon as we both agree to close down the channel, the Bitcoin blockchain is updated with the final sum. So if you still have $30 by the end of that, the Bitcoin blockchain will update with mine and yours. So I have now $20 in my wallet, and you have $30 in yours. So the kind of amazing thing about the Lightning Network is you can have, if you imagine all of these channels between different people, if I want to send Bitcoin across the Lightning Network to somebody who I'm not directly connected with, it's amazing. It automatically finds the route to that person based on channels that already exist. So if, for example, you, Anja, had somebody that I wanted to send Bitcoin to, I don't necessarily need to have a channel with them. It will send to you, to them. And at each stage that it sends it, that person receiving it doesn't know where it's come from. And so there's like all of this level of secrecy until the final person gets it and they understand that it's for them. It ends there. But it's basically like an unwrapping. With every stage that Bitcoin moves, it's only revealing to the person who gets it the amount of information they need to send it on to the next person. And then finally, when it lands in the right person's wallet, there's no instruction left to move it on. And so it stays there. So it's a really clever way of sending money across the world using these channels. I'll pause there. Is there anything there that doesn't make sense or that needs explaining?
So I'm thinking about this unwrapping and let's say you using my channel between us and my channel between my neighbor, because you want to send them, my neighbor, some money, some Bitcoin. So are the recipients and me as sort of the intermediary, are we notified that this is happening? Do I even see that Bitcoin come through my little channel? Do I notice that?
Yes and no. So if you and I both ran a Bitcoin Lightning node and we had a Bitcoin Lightning wallet connected to that node. So every node has a wallet connected, and a node is essentially like you're part of sustaining this ecosystem, right? So you've kind of downloaded the Lightning Network protocol and you're running it. So it's running on your computer. And then you open channels between people and you kind of actively open it. So if you had a node and I have a node, we obviously both have a wallet, we will physically open a channel between each other. Now, what happens is if we are being diverted through, our node does that pretty much automatically. But you can observe things coming through, but essentially the program does it automatically. It knows when there are certain channels that are open. It scans the whole space, the whole global space, and plans the route to get it to where it needs to go. And it could move through like 30, 40 people, right? 30, 40 nodes to get there. But as it moves, the person themselves doesn't need to authenticate that. The node itself, the technology kind of sends it on. The other piece to that is that, like I said, so you can keep these channels open. And a lot of people do, to allow payments to kind of go through you to other people. And if you are constantly interacting with another person, you just will leave that channel open. There are some kind of security risks in terms of one person shutting down their end of the channel before the other person. The other person could maybe take the money, can like basically kind of make up the final settlement to the Bitcoin blockchain. So there are these things called watchtowers that just make sure that if only one party closes down their end, the other person doesn't do anything nefarious. So there's these kind of watchtowers that are checking through, making sure that no one's doing that. So, but ultimately what you want to do is to close down the channel. Both parties want to do it at the same time. And then the blockchain is updated once both parties have closed that channel. So it's basically just an opening and a closing. It's kind of like, it's like being on the Bitcoin blockchain and then having a kind of back door to somebody, and you're just sort of shifting things between yourself. And then finally, when you're ready, you kind of close the doors and it updates the blockchain. Now, something that as a user who doesn't want to run a node, it's really important to know this. So this was quite hard to find. So the information about running a node and having your own Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet and node is quite commonplace, and it tells you about how to open the channel and close the channel. If you're like me and you just want to use the Bitcoin Lightning Network and you don't want to have to worry about opening and closing channels, or did I close the channel? Is someone going to take my Bitcoin from my Lightning Network wallet? All of this went through my mind. So what is important to know is that if you set up a wallet through an organization, so Exodus runs a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, although it's pricey, it charges fees to send Bitcoin to it and out. And there's also other wallets like Moon, Cash App, Strike. Now, with those apps, they manage the pathways. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about closing the door, opening the door. They have an open channel with, other people or other organizations. So you're kind of using theirs. So you don't have to worry about the opening, closing channel piece. And I think that's the same with most of these apps as well. You don't have to worry about opening and closing channels. As a user, you just send Bitcoin along the Bitcoin Lightning Network to somebody who has a wallet, right? So you don't have to worry about any of that. Because my worry was, for example, if you were sending it on Twitter or to the Fountain app, am I opening a channel with them? And then could they have, how do I close that? There was all these questions, but actually whoever you're using it through, just as a user, that wallet, they sort all that out. So you can just send your Bitcoin across the Lightning Network to that app, to that wallet, and you don't have to worry. Now, something you do have to be aware of, like I said at the beginning, is when somebody is showing you their Bitcoin Lightning wallet address, they may have a QR code, or it could be a link. You need to make sure you're in your Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet as well. So you're sending Bitcoin from your Lightning Network wallet to their Lightning Network wallet. If they are showing you a Bitcoin address and a Bitcoin QR code, you need to be in your Bitcoin wallet and sending it on the Bitcoin network. So you need to be really clear about what wallet they are wanting, what they are wanting to receive, what wallet theirs is, and your wallet. So that's a little bit confusing. And when we're trying to educate a lot of people, they may hear, oh, I can send Bitcoin on the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and think that you can just send Bitcoin to a Lightning Network wallet, which is not the case, because it's on the Lightning Network. These are channels. So you need to send it into your own wallet before you can then send it to someone else. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I mean, basically, you just need a Lightning Network wallet.
Yes.
To use the Lightning Network.
Exactly.
But I guess as you first get into it, it's not clear about the different addresses and where you're sending, what blockchain or what layer you're sending along. But I think once you get over that hump, it seems really easy.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about, so in terms of opening and closing, if I go to my local coffee shop a couple times a week, I open up my my channel with them using the same wallet, right? And I would just keep that open because I live here. Sometimes I need extra coffee. I don't want to make it myself. I go to the coffee shop and frequently. But let's say I go to El Salvador on vacation. And I also get coffee there. So I open up a channel with them, with that coffee shop. And for that whole week, I'm getting coffee from them. But when I come back home, I close that channel and don't have to worry about that at all. Is that sort of, because that's kind of like how I'm understanding in terms of using it.
So I would say, no, it's even simpler than that. So if you were running, if you were you don't have to worry about the channels unless you're running a node. And then when you're running a node, and if you wanted to, say the coffee shop also was running a node, and you were saying, let's open a channel together, because I want to send you Lightning, Bitcoin on the Lightning Network. So you guys could open a channel with each other, and you could send Bitcoin along that channel. Or they already have multiple channels open, probably with your wallet. So if you don't have even if you had a node and you ran that, you could just go in and just send Bitcoin from the Lightning Network to them, because very likely, it's going to find a way to get to them anyway. You don't need to set up a channel with every single person that you're going to come in contact with, because there's way, it will find the way to them anyway. If they're on the Lightning Network, and there's a lot of people using it, there will be ways to it. If there isn't a way, then you could set up a channel. But you only are setting up a channel if you are running a node. And that is like that key piece, is that if you're just a user like you and me, we're not running Bitcoin Lightning Network nodes. We're just using the wallet. So we don't have to worry about opening or closing a channel at all. Our hosting platform, the wallet, the hosted wallet part, manages all that. So if we're trying to send it, if you wanted to send it to someone in El Salvador and they didn't have a channel with them, they may open one and they deal with all of that. If they can find a way through other people to get there, they don't need to open a channel anyway either. So as a user, all you have to do is go into your Bitcoin Lightning Network app and just like touch your QR code, or just scan their QR code and just send Bitcoin on the Lightning Network to them. And that's it. $5, $2, $1, because your hosted wallet organizes everything else. So as a user, which is not clear when you kind of Google it, but as a user, you literally don't have to do anything other than have a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet and just pay for things on the Lightning Network. And if you have a wallet like Moon, which is MUUN, it gives you the option, do you want to pay? You can send Bitcoin into it. And then it says, do you want to pay with Bitcoin or with the Lightning Network? So you can just top up that wallet, and then wherever you are, if you see spend Bitcoin here, you could send it on the Bitcoin network. If it says pay with the Lightning Network, you can just switch it and pay via the Lightning Network. So having a wallet that integrates to both is really helpful, because you can then, it reminds you to double check. And two is because of that security piece, if you're worried, you don't really want to have more than kind of $100 at a time on your Lightning Network. It's not as secure as the Bitcoin blockchain. So ideally, you want to have your Bitcoin held in a non-custodial wallet, so a self-custody wallet. You want to be fully a custody of your Bitcoin. However, for $100 or $50, right, you can, it's okay. For me personally, the risk of that is manageable to hold it in a hosted wallet, because then I have access to the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and it's already stocked up, so I can immediately pay for something there and then. I don't have to worry about sending it from my my self-custody wallet somewhere else. So how I have it is I have money saved in my self-custody wallets. Then I also have $100 or so in a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, or like, for example, in Moon, where I can access both, and it just sits there. And so if I need to pay $5, I can just tap from that wallet. So as a user, it's super, super easy. You don't have to worry about the channels at all. But when you research about it, you're going to hear channels, and you're going to hear opening and closing, and you're going to be like, I don't really know what's going on. So for you, the Bitcoin blockchain is updated when you send your Bitcoin back out of your wallet into your Bitcoin wallet. So, or if you sent it on the Bitcoin blockchain, it would update the ledger there as well. But yeah, as a user, you just need to have a Bitcoin Lightning Network wallet, and that's it. So it's actually really easy. It's just conceptually and understanding it all, it seems much more confusing, which is kind of the essence of Bitcoin as well. It's like, once you kind of know, there's a sort of, there's an understanding. But at first it can feel like a little bit of a barrier. And like, especially when we start to talk about the technology, like, we don't often talk about the technology of how things work. Like, how does the visa system work? Like, most of us don't really know that.
Right.
But it's like, I feel like it's important to explain how it works, but actually you're just a user and you don't really need to know. It's just being aware of actually how it works to help you understand why the blockchain isn't being updated and how it makes transactions faster, because it's avoiding that. It's avoiding updating the blockchain.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, that information is important, especially, as you say, for new technologies, because I feel like there's that element of trust is a little bit shaky for these new technologies. So having the more information makes up for that. And what I'm getting to is like, I'm thinking about like sort of the car example. Like, I have no idea how the engine works and the pistons and the horsepower. Absolutely none. I'm lucky enough I've got a good mechanic that I could just drop my car off to, so, but I use it. I trust it. I trust my life to it. I put myself in that thing and I use that technology to move myself to different places. But everybody's doing it. So I don't need to know about it. So I trust sort of the larger community, but Bitcoin isn't quite there yet. So I think this kind of information is really helpful for holding that trust element that's not quite there yet.
I agree. Yeah. And that's why, I think it's really important to use these new technologies, but, do so with, a certain amount of caution, like you would if you'd never got into a car in your life. You'd never seen a car working. You're not going to jump in there and drive at 100 miles an hour. Right. There's a tentativeness, but unless you try and start, it always maintains that level of uncertainty, fear, and mystery. But this is really here to support us, and to support our freedom, the evolution of humanity. And I think that, for us like I said before, in the global north, it may not seem as important. It might just seem as like a kind of nice, fun little thing to do, if you want to go to the coffee shop and spend your Bitcoin, because at this stage, it's not fully integrated. But I guarantee in the global south, it's something that's going to be very integrated very quickly, because they need it. And it's pivotal to their life. So I think that's where it's going to start. And I think knowing how it works is really important. And I think, at the moment, if it doesn't feel that important, then I think in time it maybe will. So it's good to sort of check in. And I think it's all going to become a little bit easier. But I think, it is really just getting the hang of it. And once you know how to use it, I think it gives you a huge amount of personal satisfaction, personal freedom, and just an understanding of how cool this technology is. But, that's why I'd start low and start carefully, as you're coming into using it and knowing how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so exciting.
Yay. Yeah. It's exciting. Now, if anybody wants to learn more about Bitcoin and join a course or a program, we're teaching this as often as we can. And so in March, I've got a women's Bitcoin weekend, just talking about money, Bitcoin, our relationship to money, value. So really bringing us into the kind of engagement with having a conversation around money and Bitcoin. I'm not suggesting that anybody should buy it or needs to buy it in any way. It's more just introducing you to it in a really safe and contained environment where you can ask questions. So if anyone is interested in joining a program to learn this in a deeper way, in a held and supported way, so you're not just learning through YouTube, then I really recommend you going to our website, which is thecryptoethic.com, and navigating to the learning page and seeing what's up there, or just emailing me, which is info@thecryptoethic.com. We do really care about teaching and living this new reality. So we want to bring you in a really kind and compassionate way. So I just want to say that.
Yeah, and I think the links to our website and the email are below, and we'd love it if you subscribe to our channel and click the thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it.
Well, thank you all for watching today or listening, and thank you, Anja, for being such a wonderful co-host and sharing your lovely examples.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for guiding us through all this technical information about all this new and very sexy technology. So you're great at holding our hand and sort of guiding us through. So great that my cat wants to listen and learn it. She's been really wanting to come and watch the show. Tiger Lily loves to be part of this sometimes. So she tries to sneak into the frame and I try to push her away.
Yeah, I mean, she's always the one who like leaps up onto the table when we talk about Bitcoin.
Yes, and shake her tail.
She's like, yeah, cool. Alrighty.
Okay.
So we will speak next week. And if
Yeah,
anyone has,
looking forward to it.
me too. And if anyone has any questions about this episode today, then do let me know or us know, or pop a comment below. So yeah, we look forward to speaking with you next time. Alrighty. Bye, Anja.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Ciao.